I think it's time for financial institutions to stop deciding for their customer what they should invest in and actually give them the tools. And then, the customers, they can decide what they want to do.
Welcome back to Gen C. This season we have focused so much on who are the builders in the crypto space who are both creating new concepts and bringing those to market, as well as the established players who are coming into crypto hard these days. And similar to PayPal for me is Robinhood. I think Robinhood has gotten early, certainly compared to the Schwabs and the JP Morgans of the world in how they've approached crypto. They've had it for quite a number of years. You go to the Robinhood front page, it is there, trade crypto 24/7. So they are truly building a brand for a younger audience, which we know is part of their demographic, but also those who are very actively trying to both trade and invest for their future, and not always in traditional equities and assets. So we wanted to have Johann Kerbrat. Johann is the SVP GM of the crypto business over at Robinhood, frequent speaker with us at Consensus and other events, as well as just a general person who really understands this industry. And the fact that, here we have a platform that has millions and millions of customers. I wanted to sort of understand how they're utilizing crypto as well on the platform and where Johann thinks it's gonna go. So after the break, join us. We'll be talking to Robinhood about their crypto strategy. See you soon.
Break the cycle of exploitation, break down the barriers to truth, break into the next generation of privacy, break free. Free to scroll without being monetized, free from censorship, freedom without fear. We deserve more when it comes to privacy. Experience the next generation of blockchain that is private and inclusive by design. Break free with Midnight. Visit midnight.network/break-free.
Looking for a faster, cheaper way to move money worldwide? Owlting, now listed on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol OWLS, is building the rails for stablecoin payments. Convert fiat to stablecoins and send money as easily as a text message. Learn more at owlting.com.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Treasury Month is brought to you by Genius Group, a Bitcoin treasury company listed on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker GNS. Genius is building toward a 10,000 Bitcoin treasury and just launched Genius Academy, featuring courses from Saifedean, Ammous, and more. Start learning for free today at geniusacademy.ai. Genius Group. Genius isn't measured in IQ, it's measured in Bitcoin.
All right, welcome back. We are here with Johann Kerbrat, SVP and GM of crypto for Robinhood. First of all, welcome to Gen C. Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Johann, you've been at Consensus. You've spoken all over the place on crypto for Robinhood for quite a while. I'm really just interested, one, in what first got you interested in this category. Were you just like a degen on your own, or someone just said, hey, go look at this thing that we're interested in?
Yeah, I was a bit of a degen, like you said. I started pretty early, more than a decade ago, into crypto. Back in the day, I had a small startup that was doing payment system for small companies, small e-commerce websites and application, on mobile. And so we started to look into the Bitcoin white paper, and we felt like it will solve a lot of issues that customer and merchant were having with credit cards, where you have a lot of fraud. It's difficult to use. It's not instant, and like you have to wait before you can get the funds as a merchant. And so at the time we felt like Bitcoin was a solution for it. Unfortunately, the use case for P2P and fast payment on Bitcoin was kind of doomed from the beginning with the 10 minutes that you have to wait. And that's basically how I got the virus. Kept looking at crypto overall for a long time. And then I joined Robinhood as the head of engineering for the crypto group. And since then, I've been there for almost 5 years now, and continue the good work on the crypto side.
Great. I'm interested in that this season on the show, we've been interviewing kind of some of the really growing brands specifically who are endemic to crypto, and also the brands like yourself who I think were early in thinking about that this was going to be a larger consumer segment. When people ask, how do you describe Robinhood's vision for why you're in crypto today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of it has to come to our founder, Vlad and Beju, back in the days when they actually launched crypto at Robinhood. If you look at the exact date, it was actually right in the middle of the winter of 2018. And so, at the time, everyone in the space was kind of thinking that crypto was about to die one more time. There was all the craziness of 2017, the NFTs, sagas, the ICOs, and even though the market completely crashed in 2018, the founder and Robinhood still decided to launch the project. And the vision at the time was really to be able to give access to all the financial assets that our customer were looking for. And so I think there's a lot of good aspect of this vision, because if you think about it, right, many of these instances happened since 2018. There was the crash after FTX. There was all the regulatory issues that a lot of companies have seen. And so if you look at other of our competitors, a lot of them actually decided to stop crypto or to move it to a separate app or to put it in the corner and never look at it again until it was hot again. But instead of that, Robinhood actually started to continue investing slowly and using the time in the winters to actually build a platform that people will use during the summer. And I think that's what made Robinhood actually what it is today, because we've been able to invest continually for the past 5, 6, 7 years and actually become one of the largest platform in the US.
It's funny because I think about, even it was just this past week that sort of finally and very reluctantly Jamie Dimon sort of, initiates that they are interested in crypto finally. And yet, Vlad and you guys have been pushing on this for so long. If you were to think sort of forward a couple of years, do you see that every financial institution will be playing in this crypto space? It'll just be considered a way to move money?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I think it's time for financial institutions to stop deciding for their customer what they should invest in and actually give them the tools. The customers, they can decide what they want to do. I think there is, especially in finance, there is oftentimes, these big CEOs or big leaderships that are making massive decisions on behalf of their customer. If you remember, even during the new Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, some brokerage decided to not offer it to their customer, even though we see a huge inflows into the ETF and a huge demand for people to be able to access it through their retirement account and other things. I think at some point they will be forced, and that's what you're saying currently. It's like there is so much demand for it that either they have to offer it or this customer will move to a different platform. And so I think everyone is going to start offering it, which I think is a great thing for the customer. Like, it's bringing more competition, and so therefore you will see a better product being built. I don't know yet if in the US it will be a way to just send money or payments. I still think we have a pretty good banking system and credit rails that are almost available everywhere. And so right now it's super easy for you to just swipe your credit card at any shop or any business that you want to go to. I think the payments use case, we see it developing a lot faster in some other countries where you don't have all this infrastructure. So I think the US might be a bit behind on the payment side, but I think on the trading side, you will see it almost everywhere.
I think you mentioned this in the sense that going where people go, where they want to invest is important and imperative. Full disclosure, I own some Robinhood stock, which has performed very well for me. But really, because I thought you guys were early in understanding the sort of gamification nature of finance, and that people were looking at everything. We've seen prediction markets where those are going, everything from politics and entertainment to finance as being a little bit of a game to play. I wrote something last week about the folks who grew up with Minecraft and the folks who grew up with Fortnite are used to playing in these sort of virtual currency worlds where they get to sort of strategically outplay other people. And I think that is now coming to finances, as again, you guys were ahead of the curve. When you look at crypto, when you look at prediction markets, when you look at people valuing everything from sneakers and watches to who will be the next mayor of New York, which we're going to see this week. How do you think that this all plays within the broader mission of Robinhood?
I think to your point, we don't necessarily see it as gamification. I think it's more giving access. I think for a very long time, if you think about it, so obviously I'm French and I didn't grow up in the US. You can hear it with the way I'm speaking. But during my years when I was in school, I never really had any financial education, right? And I graduated, I started to make a little money with my business. I went to a bank and I was like, hey, what do I do with this money? And they recommended me a few funds that are taking massive fees, that are making zero yield. And that was in some of the best years of the past decade in terms of investment. And at the time, if I wanted to self-direct my investment, it was a massive thing. I don't know how many disclosure documents, and basically we get to a point where you don't teach, the youth about finance and education, about any of these tools. You don't really tell them like how to invest for their retirement, right? Everything around 401k and IRA are still pretty much of a new thing when people actually enter the workforce. And you do expect that these people at some point need to also be able to survive and all this thing. And so I think that's where platform like ours, with all the education content that we have on the platform, you start with one thing, and maybe it's crypto, maybe it's something else. You start investing in it, and you start seeing the impact that your investment has. And I think that's where we see things that are, for me, becoming magical. Is that suddenly the people and the customer are starting to understand it, learn more, spend more time into educating themselves about investing, and slowly they're putting more and more of their investment into different part of Robinhood. And I think that's what's really critical for us, and we think that's part of the vision. And where all these products tie together is it's all about different strategy, right? Like if you're feeling like the US debt is growing a bit too quickly, while some people are going to invest in gold ETF and some people are going to invest in Bitcoin. If you feel like, some decision made by politicians are not the best one, well, you can use prediction market to hedge against it or to get into it. I see it more as a way for people to have access where for a very long time they couldn't, more than playing a game, I guess.
You mentioned you're French. Obviously, we hear your accent. I think about the fact of Ledger being a French company. Then we think of like Louis Vuitton and all that they've done in Web3. I think of Vivendi and all they've done in Web3. Like, is there something about France that gets people interested in these kind of new ways of thinking about customer engagement?
I think French are, reputed for not really liking necessarily the government and the way that things are being pushed to them. And back in the day, one other thing that really put me into crypto was, it was the '08 crisis coming mostly from the US, actually, from the subprime and all of this. And the US were able to really get back quickly on their legs and move on to the next phase of their growth. Where in Europe, we can't, just print as much currency as we would like to and all these things. And so the EU countries actually took a bit longer before developing again. And so I think that's where a lot of companies went into crypto. This idea that you are not going to be governed by one central bank, but actually you can self-govern through miners and all this concept back in the days. I think that got a lot of people excited. And so that's how you saw Ledger and Pascal and other starting as well.
Mm. All right, let's get back to Robinhood for a second. In terms of the consumer behavior that you're seeing, are you finding that the Robinhood user for crypto, are they more long-term holders or are they more like active traders?
Back in the days, we had maybe one type of customers. And these days, we have more than 26 million customers on the Robinhood platform. Mm-hmm. And so we have a bit of everything. You have the people that are more like holding, and it's been multiple years that they haven't touched their Bitcoin or their Ethereum. And it did, fairly well for them. So I understand why. And then we have the very active traders, people that are trading, on a daily basis, multiple Bitcoin. Depending on what product we are building, we're trying to target different type of this customer segment. The past year, we've been building a lot more of this advanced tool. We launched Robinhood Legend, for example, that is a new web app that you can use to see and create strategies. And so I think for us, it's more a question of like what type of customer segment we target with our feature. But we see, all of this behavior happening on the platform at all time.
I mean, I imagine that, I look at myself and I think I've done one transaction with the Bitcoin I've held in the entire time. I've had it since 2014, and I'm probably not the best customer for a financial services company, right? Because I don't do a lot of active back and forth. But I mean, luckily I keep buying here for dollar cost averaging. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting when I think of why all, whether it's Fidelity, whether it's, JP Morgan, all these people are trying to get in. I understand that they say, well, it's always good to have more assets under management and be able to offer products that people want. I think about when we go to a future, you mentioned, the financial rails in the US are pretty stable. And I think you're correct, right? It's we don't need crypto in the same way that Venezuela needs crypto right now. But I also do think about where wealth is being made across the world. We also do want people to spend in America. And why not give them an opportunity to spend crypto or invest crypto here? This whole year has been a stablecoin conversation. What's your approach to, or what's your thoughts of this idea of stablecoins being this like internet native money that anyone can transact with low fees, high speed? How do you look at it from a Robinhood lens, but also personally, you're someone who's in the industry. What do you think of this as the use case?
I mean, I think it's been one of the best use case for crypto for a long time. A lot of people were talking about tokenization, Robin included. We can't stop talking about it. But I think it's really hard sometimes for people to understand this concept of a token that represents something that is real. And I think tokenization of the dollar, which is stablecoin, was really the best example of tokenization. And I think it's critical for the US as a nation. If you're thinking about it, like you're saying, people using stablecoin, meaning they're buying US treasuries, but also like it has been used in many different forms across the world, which I think is what has been the most interesting. You see a bunch of countries in LATAM that want to escape their own kind of hyperinflation currencies and get into the dollar. So they're using stable, and you can go in some of these countries and people will actually just transact in USDT or their stable coin just because it's more certain than exchanging a piece of paper. So I think that has been one of these like great solution that we've seen being developed. I think for us on the platform, we are trying to be on a few fronts. One is we want to be able to make it easy for people to get in and out of a stable coin. So we don't charge any fee. For example, you get one-to-one on the platform. You can transfer out of Robinhood if you want to. I think for the business itself, we also are starting to use it in many different forms. So when we settle with big institutions, for example, we are going to use stablecoin because it's 24/7, it's instant, you don't have risk of fraud. Where like in the past system that we used to have, like you have to wait on Monday for the bank to open to send your wire, and so that creates a lot of capital efficiencies and are allowing us to pass more of the benefit of trading and everything to the customer. To your point on the US with the banking rails, yes, it's fairly good, but I think you are going to see some of these companies starting to more and more invest in it. You saw the Mastercard acquisition, or at least the announcement. There was a Stripe acquisition with Bridge, and so this idea that you will be able to use stable and move more quickly and easily money around, I think is going to use blockchain technology under it. Doesn't have to be a public blockchain. You see some companies like JP Morgan, for example, building their own private blockchain or their own private stablecoin. But I think at the end of the day, it's still using blockchain rails, and that's what's pretty interesting to see the evolution.
Looking for a faster, cheaper way to move money worldwide? Owlting, now listed on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol OWLS, is building the rails for stablecoin payments. With OwlPay, you can seamlessly convert fiat currency to stablecoins, send money as easily as a text message, and on or off ramp globally. Learn more about Owlting at owlting.com.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Treasury Month is brought to you by Genius Group, a Bitcoin treasury company listed on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker GNS. Genius is on its way to hodling 10,000 Bitcoin in its treasury while educating the world on a Bitcoin-first future. Genius has launched the Genius Academy with courses from the likes of Saifedean Ammous, author of the Bitcoin Standard, Natalie Brunell, and many more. Start your Genius learning journey for free today at geniusacademy.ai and earn Bitcoin-backed gems. Genius Group. Genius isn't measured in IQ, it's measured in Bitcoin.
You mentioned you started on the engineering side, so my guess is you're a firm believer in the technology. I guess when you think of the role that Robinhood wants to play and that you want to bring this group into, I can see that there's an enterprise angle. I can see that there's ways to sort of unlock your own, PayPal's done their own stable coins, or ways that you can move money quicker and easier. Where do you think we are on the timeline? Is this, are we still like early in where we think blockchain is going, or do you think that we've started to mature now into our teenage years?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if we're a teenager yet. I mean, I know in time we are, but I think there is still some maturity that needs to happen in terms of the technology. I think what has been interesting though is to see a lot more company building on top of existing layer, and so layer twos. We are one of the companies that announced we'll build on top of Ethereum. And I think that's very beneficial for layer twos because basically we don't have to rethink security of the network and the blockchain. Like we can just rely on what Ethereum is already doing and focus on the next phase of the technology that we're trying to build. And I think that's what you're going to start seeing more and more. Like there are a lot of L2s being announced. In terms of stable, I think it's a bit of a different question. There is obviously the revenue coming from the number of stables that you're holding, and so the idea that every big companies that are moving a lot of cash have their own stable is possible. There are also different solutions like consortium to share the revenue. Our focus is going to be more like we want to be able to aggregate any stable. If you want to get in with a specific stable or out with another one, we should make it easy for you. Because if we start creating all this complexity, we are just going in circle where some very technical people can understand what's going on in crypto, but most people are being left out because it's way too complex. I think we need to make sure that we understand that stable should be a concept that people can easily get in from their hard cash to a stable, and then they can spend it without having to pay fees all across the steps and getting complexity on, oh, I have Tether, but I cannot pay because this is on a USDC or this kind of things. Like I think that would be the worst situation for blockchain.
It's interesting to me because I think that this idea of fully programmable, interoperable money is a great vision. I think there is still some complexity that needs to be worked out. But I've been thinking about this quite a bit recently about the idea of, we saw Western Union is now starting to get into the game. MoneyGram's already been in the game. I keep thinking about this idea that at some point we don't need to think about off ramps because we just have currencies, and the currencies are all digital and interchangeable. Is that sort of where you see the world going to?
Yeah, possible. I think the idea that you can get your paycheck in stable and you can never need to get into hard cash is totally possible. And I think we're starting to see it in some countries again, where, for example, it's a lot easier to pay a contractor, especially if you're hiring from a different country, using stable, and they can use a stable then into their own place. So that's definitely, I think, something that we'll see. I still think you will need to have some level of aggregation at some point because you will have businesses that are managing Tether and some businesses that are managing USDC. And you shouldn't ask the merchant to suddenly have to deal with all these different type of currency. It should be easy for everyone in the loop. So I hope that all the stablecoin issuers are starting to think about this problem instead of just thinking about how do we make sure that we lock people in, because I think that's kind of where we need to go as an industry.
Let me pivot here for a second. I think about the fact that I have a young adult child, and she's starting out in the workforce, and she has said to me, how should I think about investing? And what's my split between crypto and equities and ETFs? And, and I say to her, oh, well, you should open something like a Robinhood account. And, these days, I think a good mix of those. And that's a question I keep hearing from younger folks. When you think of the people coming in, you said you have 26 million customers. To me, that says, oh, there's a world that Robinhood has in front of it of acquisition. That 26 million becomes 50 million, becomes 100 million. Do you think that a lot of those users are coming in because they really want to play in the game of crypto as much as they want to get NVIDIA stock because they see what's happening there?
I think there's a few things. I think, we have a pretty unique UI and UX. When we build products, you could see the amount of time we spend doing like feedback loop to make sure that people understand how do they like the product, what is, annoying them, all these kind of things. That has been one of our key advantage that I think made it accessible for a lot of people. So, for example, if you trade something for the first time, we're going to explain to you what is a limit order, and we're going to show you like how does that work and what is the impact of this kind of things. That goes from very basic things like this to very advanced things like option, and we're going to simulate return for you and all this kind of things. We also invested a lot into learn modules. So we have learn module. We also have learn and earn module where we give you a little bit of a reward if you complete them. All of these things, I think, took us from a place where people can actually just not invest, but also learn about their finance. And we have a lot more things coming up, around this type of feature that will continue to develop and push. But overall, our main focus, I think, is to give access to the customer, like I was saying earlier, and then they can decide what they should be doing. And when someone asks me this type of question, I usually tell them, try with a little bit, learn about it, and after decide on your strategy versus just doing a one and done and not look at it again. And I think that's been the kind of the beauty of our platform. The second part that I think works very well for us is you can do everything in one app. You don't need to have a separate app for crypto or for brokerage. You can have your retirement account as well. You can have strategies, which is a managed account as well to invest. And I think that has been pretty critical for us because you don't need to always constantly think about moving money from one platform to the other and this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder, I think when I think of Robinhood's competition, and again, you guys have always been aggressive. I think all ships, or the tides raise all ships. So I think there's not a worry that it's just the better builders, better brands succeed. But, I look at Coinbase and I say, hey, they're trying to be full service finance at some point. And then I look at E-Trade and say, well, when are they going to get into crypto and DeFi and all of this? So do you see more of your competition coming from the crypto side into traditional equities, or do you see it more the other way around of the brokerages getting into crypto?
I think on all sides, I think, Robinhood has a fairly unique strategy and you see people trying to replicate it for a very long time. I also don't necessarily see it as something that is concerning to us. I think competition is good for everybody. Like for the company, it makes them think about problem harder and think about ways to differentiate themselves. And I think it's good for the customer because usually more competition means that you will have the choice and you're not just locked into one platform and have to pay crazy fees or you just don't have a choice. I think for a long time on crypto, if you think about it, like some of our competitors were able to charge very high fees in the 3-4% if you include all the spread and everything. And that was because they were, the only game in town. But that being said, I think for us, we want to make sure that we continue our own vision. We see crypto not as just a tradable asset, but we also see it as a platform that we can use to build a new way of trading, new way of moving money. We announced in the EU our stock tokens product, which is basically stock that are tokenized and on chain. And any customer purchasing these stock tokens gets exposure to the US stock that is underlying. So I think that's where our mental focus is on. If more and more of the other platform like E-Trade and Schwab are coming into crypto, I think overall it's good. It will grow the pie. It will give exposure to more people that until now we're stuck with this platform and we're unable to get crypto. We'll see how much it can develop also to really compete with other platform makers.
As someone who's in the ecosystem as much as you are, clearly you guys understand the investing game. You seem to have a great handle on payments. You mentioned NFTs earlier. I think of all the loyalty programs that have come in. I think about all the people talking about identity and privacy. How do you look at these other sides of crypto and how they interweave into the Robinhood experience in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think, loyalty programs and all these things, they're all, interesting use case of the technology. But at the end of the day, I don't know if blockchain is really bringing anything there. I think on identity, that's where it's interesting. There's this concept of zero knowledge proof that a lot of crypto projects are using that allows you to verify without necessarily giving all the information to the other side. I think that's one of these use cases that can be very, very interesting. Even during the COVID period of time where there was this debate at some point to have a passport telling you like if you're vaccinated or not, and with a lot of personal information that you don't really want to just carry around and give to any person, that there was like a proof of concept built on zero knowledge proof where no information was given, just like the yes or no, basically, when you're looking at it. And you could use this information for many other things, from when you're going to the doctor, from when you're paying, because one of the issues with blockchain is everything is public. So I don't know how many people want their entire financial to be public. And that's where zero knowledge proof can play a game. And I think that's one of these great use cases of the technologies that we haven't seen yet developed enough, but I think it's starting to come more and more.
My final question for you, Johann, is one where I can imagine there is some 21-year-old right now in Silicon Valley or in Dubai or in Singapore who is saying, I need to build the Robinhood of crypto, and still sees white space there. Do you think that if you fast forward, you're going to see someone come with this new paradigm just as you guys had in the investing space? Or is the Robinhood of crypto in 5 years just Robinhood?
I think it's a great question. I think we see new version of Robinhood being developed on a daily basis, either in different countries or with different angle. With AI, for example, we see a lot of platform trying new things. I think that's where we need to go back to the way that we've built Robinhood and make sure that we are always kind of pushing ourselves to build the next version of Robinhood. And I think to the vision of our CEO and founder Vlad has been always something that is on top of his mind. If you were with us during a roadmap planning or a quarterly planning, you will see that it doesn't really take the status quo as a great answer to progress. And so I think that's one of these reasons why we are being successful to keep growing. I think the other the reason why is we have this constant customer focus. We spend a lot of time with our customer. We do multiple events a year where we invest time, but we also invite retail into the event. We talk to them. We try new products with them. We see how they interact with it and if they have like anything that they are missing. And based on that, we shape our roadmap and we continue to innovate. So thanks to that, we've been able to stay on top of the wave of innovation. And you saw it, recently with all the announcement we did around AI or on like new advanced trader platform that we are trying to push ourselves to this world. I think competition is real, and at some point it's always interesting to see what other people are coming up with new ideas and how they disrupt the space. I think crypto being so still nascent, you will see a lot of options for people to innovate and disrupt us.
Yeah, but I think you hit on such a salient point, which is you have to be customer service focused. You have to have the user experience that makes people want to keep coming back, and you have to have the brand that you built. And I think that's a trifecta that's pretty hard to do these days. And a lot of crypto projects, as we know, might have a great idea, but they don't understand the customer. They don't really build a usable system. So, congrats to what you and Vlad and the team has been doing, because I think there are few pushing as hard as you have. Johann, thank you for spending the time with us today on Gen C, and we look forward to seeing you soon at an event or dinner one of these days.
Yeah, it was fun. See you soon.